Power of One. Today we're going to be speaking with Donna Welsh, who is employed with KCIT. Donna is going to break down KCIT, break down what KCIT means, and how they serve the community. Welcome to the show, Donna. Donna, please tell the viewers what KCIT is, what KCIT stands for, and is KCIT under an umbrella agency?
Sure. So the acronym of KCIT actually is the Keystone Crisis Intervention Team. It's a program that provides trauma support and intervention to communities that have been impacted by crime, especially communities where there are multiple people impacted, such as mass terrorism, mass casualties, or even multiple witnesses or multiple people that have been impacted by the same crime. We are a program that is under the umbrella of the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency. We refer to them as, their acronym is PCCD. And it is a fully grant-funded program for the state of Pennsylvania. So we cover the whole state. But the grant recipient for the over 20 years has been NOVA of Bucks County. So we're under the umbrella of NOVA, but we are a statewide program.
And NOVA stands for?
It actually is no longer an acronym. It just stands for NOVA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's awesome. Now, is NOVA a community-based agency that just deals with victims and co-homicide survivors? Tell us a little bit about NOVA.
Sure. So NOVA is a victim service organization, and they have a couple pillars under NOVA. You have your prevention and education about like anti-bullying, to doing a lot of outreach into the public schools and the communities about anti-bullying and safe dating and safe touching and things like that, and even cyberbullying. Then you have our advocacy, and our advocates work directly one-on-one with victims of crime. And we also have therapists, counseling. We also have our SANE program, which is our sexual assault nurse examiners who do forensic exams of folks throughout Bucks County who have been sexually assaulted. We also have our CAC program, which is designed to provide forensic interviews for children who've been assaulted. And then there's KCIT. So we have a full gamut. Now, NOVA only works in Bucks County. Okay. So it's a Bucks County focused organization. It's a private nonprofit.
So NOVA's Bucks County, KCIT throughout the state of PA.
Correct. We're the only statewide program within NOVA.
Okay. So with KCIT actually responds to crisis situations. Tell me about the responders. Are the responders employees of KCIT? Are the responders trained? Where do they have to reside? Are there requirements for the responders?
Sure. So our responders, we call them volunteers because they are volunteering their time and their energy and their commitment and emotional selves in helping communities that have been impacted by crime. So our responders are professionally trained volunteers, and we train them. And they are from all over the state of Pennsylvania. Many have work experience with victim services, but some are also therapists, some are counselors, some are police officers from all different backgrounds. And we don't have, when we talk about requirements of who can be a volunteer with our program, we just say they have to be 18 years of age and older and have the commitment and compassion to work with communities that are really struggling and being part of the team. And so it's a pretty cool thing to be part of this larger network of people that really want to give back to communities the way they do. So that's our response team. Now, to become an actual volunteer with KCIT, they have to go through our training program. And right now it is a 12-hour virtual training. And we call it a group crisis intervention training. And after they've completed that training, they will be reached out to and say, hey, do you want to be part of our team? And if the answer is yes, we move forward and we start the application process. And that entails some real, I mean, the hardest part is going through the training. So after the training's done, it's easy after that. It's just the application, some basic paperwork, an interview, and references and clearances. And that's it. And then once they join the team, we link them up with a mentor and they get started. And no one just gets put on a deployment right away. They get to observe a couple before they actually become part of an actual deployment. And we call it deployments. And I want to just clarify what that means, because one of the things that I usually tell the story of, I compare it a little bit to Red Cross, because the Red Cross deploy volunteers when communities are experiencing a crisis. And so very similarly, we deploy volunteers to communities that are also in crisis. So it's similar to that. And so our volunteers are the ones that actually provide the services in the community.
How can one request KCIT to come and provide the crisis support? And what would be circumstances for one who would reach out to KCIT?
Sure. So if there's a community in need, and by community, it can be a professional community, it could be a neighborhood, it could be a school. So community is loosely defined. So basically, any group that has been impacted by a crime can call KCIT to request help. The one thing that is required for us to assist is we need one person as a main contact to, like we call them the host, to help with coordination. And we work very closely with the host, because the host is going to know where a great place would be for us to have the event. We always try to have an event which will promote safety for the group. So it's like to give you an example, if an incident occurs in a school, we're not going to have our intervention in the school. We most likely would have our intervention in a place that's more neutral, unless the host says, no, 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 having it in the school is where we want it to be. And so we work really closely with the host.
Okay. Now, what services are provided when you have this deployment? Walk us through what actually takes place. And you said a crime, so it doesn't necessarily have to be a homicide.
Correct.
It could be a shooting, a domestic violence incident where multiple people were affected by this incident.
Right.
So when KCIT is deployed, walk us through what that actually means when KCIT is there and they're providing services.
Yeah, so when we talk about the group crisis intervention, it's not therapy. It's usually a one-time occurrence. And like I said, similar to the Red Cross, we deploy our volunteers to help during the crisis. And we work with what we call homogenous groups. And what I mean by that is we try and group people based on their exposure and experience with the incident. So we wouldn't group witnesses of the crime with people that came upon the crime after it was over. So the intervention brings people together in a safe place and allows them to connect how the incident has impacted them. And the goal of the intervention is to help validate and normalize what they experienced during the incident to what they're experiencing now, and then helping them focus on the future. So at the conclusion of the session, volunteers provide tools for self-care. We focus on internal resourcing, but also what are some resources in the community that they can turn to if further assistance is needed.
Okay. So these deployments take place in person. Mm-hmm. Tell me how KCIT functioned during the COVID pandemic. The COVID pandemic changed the world forever.
Mhm.
I know deployments were still needed because crime did not
Mhm.
fall off.
Yeah.
Crime was still unfortunately occurring, and I'm sure requests were still coming in at KCIT. How did KCIT serve the needs of those affected by crime?
Right. It was a big transition because we transitioned it virtually, and it was a journey. We took the model and we modified it to provide support to communities virtually, and it took us probably about 3 or 4 interventions before we could say, yeah, this is working. We had to work out a lot of the kinks, and then we had to train all of our volunteers all over the state virtually how to do the virtual, how to make it a successful service virtually. And so we now continue to offer it virtually and in person. And so in some instances, that's it. It makes more sense to do it virtually based on the community we're trying to reach. And I do that decision making with the host. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Is there a charge for KCIT to come out to offer these services?
No, it's a free service, and it has been free for over 20 years. Yes, we are free, and we are paid for by a grant from PCCD. So it is completely free. And oh, and the other thing I want to just mention, in addition to providing group crisis intervention, the other service we provide within KKIT are trainings, professional trainings. Right now, we do uh, trauma-informed death notification, and we also do validating trauma training. And we take those trainings and we will modify and customize it based on the community asking for the training. Like, for instance, we've had a lot of requests on grief and how to deal with very heavy grief after crime occurs. And so what we've done is we've taken validated trauma training and we've added a whole heavy section on grief and grief work. So we were able to modify and play with it based on what the needs are in the community.
So the training that you're speaking about, is that for victim advocates or is that for community members?
Good question. For the most part, we provide it for organizations, professionals. However, we're looking now to we already have sort of a training. We want to create a training within our deployments because oftentimes, especially when crime occurs and children are impacted, parents really need that extra support and how to deal with their kids, how to deal with their family in the aftermath of all of everything. So we're looking to incorporate that piece within our actual deployments. So there'll be actually a training component for community members at some point. I'd say within this year it'll be implemented.
That's excellent. Now, when you say you do all of PA, do you do Philly as well?
Yes, we cover every inch of Pennsylvania. There are other organizations within Pennsylvania that provide something similar to us. So I'm very aware of who they are. And so if we get called upon to provide, say, a service in an area where I know there are, very similar organizations, I will ask the person contacting me, have you tried them? Because they're based in the community that is calling me. And if they have, or they're not, or they really want KKIT, I will also let that other organization know that we might be working with this community and we would like to keep the open lines of communication open.
And that's great. That's a sign of respect, and I think that's a great way to work. So for the viewers that are watching, how can they get in touch with KKIT if they need to get a crisis group, or even if they would like to volunteer?
Great, great. So to get in touch with us, you just either call, email. You can go on our website. You can we have an information form you can fill out to get information from us. And so they can reach us at any time, and we are available pretty much 24 hours a day. We are always looking for volunteers. So again, it's the same thing, that they could just fill out an information form, because we actually have a little checklist of, are you interested in, group crisis intervention? Are you interested in becoming a volunteer? And we would respond based on whatever they're requesting. And as far as if they're interested, they just, again, to become a volunteer, they just have to go through our training program. And right now, this year, we're going to be offering the group crisis intervention training 3 times, and it's free. It's a free training, and it's virtual. It's 12 hours, and yeah, so it's very accessible. And after the training, if they do want to become a volunteer, they just have to go through the process, and I would walk them through that process.
Donna, tell us a little bit about you, how
Ooh.
you got into this work. I always say with victim services, it's a passion. You cannot be in victim services if you're looking for a job. It just doesn't work that way. You have to have the passion. You have to have a very sweet heart to be able to do this type of work, to offer genuine services to those affected by a crime. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got in this line of work.
Sure. I am one of those old school social workers. I have a master's in social work, and I have worked in many different sections or sectors of this field of social work. And I was working with this amazing group called the Bucks County Women's Advocacy Coalition, and they are a group of volunteers that lobby on behalf of women and children for common sense laws and legislation. And through my work with them, I learned a lot about NOVA. And I kept my eye on NOVA because NOVA is, on the forefront of victim services throughout the Bucks County region, but they're also just had a strong reputation in the region. So I saw this opportunity when I started networking within NOVA, and I started learning about KCIT and how unique and incredibly special um, this program is. And it only was validated more when I stepped through the door and I started meeting our volunteers. And so when you are around people that are so committed and so passionate and so compassionate for victims of crime, and most of my volunteers have full-time jobs where their jobs could be like 3 or 4 jobs in one, yet they're willing after work to come and volunteer with me to actually do something that can be very emotionally draining. To me, was a gift, and to be around that kind of energy, and to know that we're part of that healing. We're part of that healing journey for someone or some people, because our program is really designed for groups of people. And I emphasize, when I say the uniqueness of KCIT, what makes it so unique is that it focuses on community healing. At a time when, especially before and during COVID, we talked about self-care, self-care, self-care. But when you are emphasizing self-care, and what we tend to forget then is how valuable community care can be. And community care, when you're sitting in a room and you're listening to people talk about an experience in a way that it connects with your soul and your own path of healing, because you're experiencing something similar, is incredibly cathartic. And so it's a very unique and wonderful experience. So thanks for asking.
You're welcome. For those of you who do not know, I too am a responder for KCIT, and I have been working with Donna for many years now. It has been a true pleasure Donna is dynamic and she does an amazing job. Donna,
Yeah.
I want to thank you so much for all that you do. Keep up the good work. When you get tired, practice that self-care because we need you around for a very, very long time. Thank you so much for joining me today.
And thank you. And thank you, Melanie. And I thank you for having me here and to be able to talk about it. But I also thank you for your time and commitment with Keystone Crisis Intervention Team because it's invaluable. And I am so grateful to have you as part of this journey and part of my path with KCIT.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. It's important that you give back to your community because healing begins within your community. And you could be the one to change someone's life. People need love and people need affection. And you could be that one to change their life during one of their most difficult times in their lives. So please think about giving back to your community. Remember, the power of one starts with you. Peace and blessings.